welcome to Korea Today, brought to you live from the South Korean capital.
And yet another stumbling block. The high-level meeting between the two Koreas that was supposed to take place today in Seoul is called off due to an agreement over the class of respective chief delegates.
청와대 official says demanding one side to give in 100% cannot be healthy for inter-Korean relations. More coming up in the headlines. In business news, Asian currencies take a tumble, and the won is not the worst of it. Coming up on In Print.
And tours to a North Korean mountain could restart soon. But who really cares? The answer coming up.
Also on Korea Today, mothers are racking their brains as to what to feed the baby, and businesses are seeing that as a niche market. We have the latest baby food trend in Korea. It's now a vibrant cultural scene showing off the latest beats in indie music and more. We take you around the streets of Hongdae in Seoul live on this Wednesday, June 12, 2013.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
And thank you for joining us today on Korea Today.
Thank you for tuning in. Today and tomorrow we're supposed to have been busy days, busy times for all of us in the news industry, as well as North Korea watchers following the two-day talks between the two Koreas. But they have been called off for now because the two sides failed to bridge their gaps regarding the level of the head of each delegation.
That's right, the class of the chief delegates indeed. Now, Seoul was initially hoping for a ministerial level meeting between the two with South Korea's Unification Minister Ryu Gil-jae and also North Korea's Kim Yang-gun, the head of the United Front department in the ruling Workers' Party. But when Pyongyang refused, this was when the signs of trouble began to surface.
Right, and the South Korean government wanted to send the vice minister of the Unification Ministry, and this seemed to have been the deal breaker. And Seoul's Unification Ministry is leaving the door open ever so slightly for the talks to resume anytime soon. So we will have to keep a close eye on that, on the further developments. So
That's right. All we can do is actually wait for the developments to come as they arise.
Right. We'll now go to Na Young-kyung for more on this and other stories that we're following at this hour.
The two Koreas were set to meet in Seoul today, but as you just heard, talks have been called off. The cancellation came on the eve of the two-day inter-Korean talks. South Korean officials say Pyongyang pulled out of the meeting, claiming the ranks of the delegation was a mismatch.
Right after the exchange of the delegation list, North Korea raised an issue about our chief delegates, saying the talks cannot be held if we don't send a minister-level official. The South Korean government finds Pyongyang's decision very regrettable. North Korea's demands are neither in line with our standards nor those of the international community.
Seoul had Vice Unification Minister Kim Nam-sik as its head of the delegation, while Pyongyang named Kang Ji-young, a director at the Committee of the Peaceful Reunification of Korea, as its chief delegate. A high-ranking official at the presidential office of Cheongwade criticized Pyongyang's decision, saying demanding one side to accommodate all of its needs and causing humiliation is unhealthy for inter-Korean relations. North Korea hasn't officially said anything about their decision. And while preparations were taking place for the now canceled inter-Korean talks in South Korea, officials from Seoul and Washington met in the United States to discuss North Korea-related issues. South Korea's Vice Foreign Affairs Minister Kim Kyu-hyun sat down with U.S. officials, including Defense Undersecretary James Miller, on Tuesday, Washington time. The two sides talked about the recent sentiment change in Pyongyang, and Kim was briefed on last week's summit talks between the leaders of the U.S. and China. A high-ranking government official reportedly said Xi Jinping's public admission that Beijing will not tolerate North Korea's nuclear ambitions must have taken a toll on Pyongyang. The official, however, also noted the regime's denuclearization should remain as a precondition for both Seoul and Washington. Prosecutors have decided to indict the former National Intelligence Service Chief Won Se-hun on charges of election law violation. The Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office says it has concluded Won interfered in last year's presidential election by ordering his agents to sway public opinion online. The prosecution is also charging Kim Yong-pan, the former head of the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency, with hampering the police investigation related to this case. Now, last year, a female NIS employee was accused of posting slanderous messages online about Moon Jae-in, the then rival candidate of President Park Geun-hye. A few days before the election day, though, the police made a surprise announcement that they couldn't find any evidence. The hospital that ended up being caught in a political tug-of-war for the past couple of months has closed its doors permanently. Amid angry scenes, the bill to close off the much-debated Jinju Medical Center in Korea's southeastern Gyeongsang province was railroaded on Tuesday. The bill was approved by a majority of provincial council members, despite fierce protests by the main opposition Democratic Party and the hospital's labor union. This comes after South Gyeongsang Province Governor Hong Jun-pyo said he would shut down the nation's second oldest public hospital, citing mounting financial losses as a reason. Opposition lawmakers and labor union members strongly opposed his decision.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. And then there were none. With no compromise in sight, the much-anticipated inter-Korean high-level government talks dissipated into thin air, at least for today. And that is the top story on several of our newspapers today. So let's go ahead and begin with 동아일보. Now, its headline reads, South sticks to principles and North calls off meeting. The paper summarizing the positions of the two Koreas in its subheadlines there, namely that the North deferred the meeting after its demand for Seoul to send its unification minister as its chief delegate was denied. The article says that the cancellation of today's meetings comes without a time frame for follow-up contact, and given the situation that the North's unilateral cancellation and deferment of responsibility to the South is likely setting the stage for more criticism aimed at Seoul. Meanwhile, the image on the front page shows Korea's national team celebrating in the rain moments after defeating Uzbekistan 1-0 in yesterday's game. The victory does clear the way for the team to take on Iran, one step away from qualifying for the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. More to come, of course, coming up in sports. And scooting over to Gyeongyang Shinmun now, the image on Gyeongyang Shinmun's front page shows South Gyeongsang Provincial Council Speaker Kim Oh-young holding the mic right there, calling for a vote on a bill that would effectively close down the contentious Jinju Medical Center once and for all. Now, members of the opposition try to physically block the majority rules vote, the paper saying that the 103-year-old medical center disappeared with the swift railroading of the bill. It only took about 10 minutes for that bill to pass. Meanwhile, the main headline above it does cover the biggest story of the day, reading South North differ on level of chief delegate and government level talks collapse. The article going on to say that this is the first time Pyongyang has canceled an inter-Korea meeting just one day before, anticipating a blame game between the two sides. The Seoul government has expressed deep regret at the North's position that it doesn't believe Pyongyang's outright refusal to talks based on the choice of Seoul's chief representative Kim Nam-sik, who is, of course, the vice unification minister, was a sensible reaction. All right, and 조선일보 also has the story on its front page reading, level as an excuse, North unilaterally cancels meeting one day before. And we do have analyses coming up with Professors Hong Se-ryun, so we will leave that story there for now and go ahead and take a look at the front page image on 조선일보, which shows Beijing's spacecraft soaring into space, its fifth manned space mission and its longest at 15 14 days. Now, it did pierce through the atmosphere at around 5:38 p.m. Korea time with a mission to transport cargo and crude to its prototype space station. And if it succeeds, the paper says China will be one step closer to launch a much bigger Chinese space station. And as you can see up here, there are a crew of 3 astronauts, including 1 woman astronaut, waving to the camera, indicating a successful launch. All right, and as you can see, JoongAng Daily also has a similar image of the spacecraft there. Finally, we'll go ahead and take a look at Mail Business newspaper, and it does have an image of a crew breaking down what would have been the meeting room for the South-North government-level talks at the Grand Hilton Hotel, and some market news actually next to that article. So let's go ahead and take a look at this story right here. We'll get to that graph in a moment. The headline reads, Asian currencies plummet on improving U.S. markets and an anticipated pullback of its quantitative easing policies. Now, the Korean won did shed some 6.7 points against the greenback to end at 1,134 won to the dollar after showing a downward trend for the past 2 weeks. And the article says the won was not alone. The Thai baht, the Philippine peso, the Indonesian rupiah, and the Australian dollar all fell against the dollar, several of them showing the weakest forex rates in years. But the biggest damage, it seems, is with the Indian rupee. You can see that fall in the inserted graph here as it hit a record low yesterday, ending at 58.8 points, which is a drastic difference from the 39 back in January of 1998. And with that, we will wrap your look at what's in print on this Wednesday and turn to your market action from Tuesday. The lists of delegates of the 2 Koreas' 5-member representatives were exchanged at around 1 p.m. Tuesday, but 7 hours later, the South and North concluded they were unable to bridge their differences. As a result, the much-anticipated inter-Korean talks have been put off. And to talk more, I have Professor Song Se-ryung from Kyung University joining me in the studio. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
So why is the formation of the delegation so important for both sides?
Well, one hand, it's just a diplomatic protocol. So it should not have been a very important issue on both sides. Whoever comes out, they'll have to come back to either Blue House or the Kim Il-sung Palace for the important decisions. So it's not really a deal breaker. And yet, there you go again, figuratively speaking, storming out of the room. On the other hand, I think that it might have been very important for North Korea. Look, at this point, they want 2 things. One is to still pursue the nuclearization policy, but at the same time, they need economic relief. And the important thing for them is to keep them separate. So sending out somebody who's very close to the party core probably would have been difficult for North because he doesn't have the deniability.
Right, deniability. Right. So if that's the case, then would it be fair to say that North Korea was looking for more of an economic relief at this point?
I think so, because what happened in China-U.S. talk, it seems like the denuclearization might become a condition for any kind of aid or economic relief. Then the only choice at this point is South Korea, who is very willing to talk about the economic collaboration. And we also had the economic collaboration apparatus already in place.
So what many are wondering is this a simple delay, or is it going to be not a simple delay? And could it lead to a possible stance for both sides?
Well, the North has been doing this for decades.
Right?
They elevated to the art form being a problem child and be finicky and demand attention and pampering. So I don't think this is a simple delay, but and yet we have to see what happens, not only the North Korean, South Korean side, but what happens in the global front, where if they have no other choice but to come back, then they will. But one worry is that they'll go back to the provocation part, because that's one of the two scenarios that they have. Provocation and then easing tensions and demand what is amount to be ransom money.
Would you still consider this as a progress, though, that the two sides were going to talk but ended up not talking?
Right. In that point, it probably is a progress to that extent, but I would call it a progress not because of what North did or what they're in. The progress part is the international front that we have formed with China, US, and South Korea, economic sanctions, and the principles, and firm and principled approach that has gotten them so far. So I think it is a context that North Korea is bound to play in. That's part is a progress.
Right, a progress that they had nowhere but to turn to South Korea at this point.
Right.
But so now some say that the South Korean government may have been too stubborn with the choice of delegates from Pyongyang's side. Would this be a blow to the Park Geun-hye administration?
Well, there is this talk. The Kim Yang-gon is not really a minister's level. He's more of a vice prime minister level.
At this point, we don't know what to call him anymore.
No. I think, be that as it may, it might be a misunderstanding that the South Korea had always gripes over the past decades of talks with them, because North Korea has always sent them kind of lower ranks. So they wanted to correct that practice and be principled in that regard. But the fact that it is not really a deal-breaker situation, it should not have been a deal-breaker situation, says that it should not be a deal any kind of a blow to the Park administration. If it becomes a blow, then I think that's what North Korea wants. He wants to put Park administration in a very difficult position, so that Park will come out and say, look, we'll talk, whatever the cost. And that's the situation probably we should avoid at any cost.
So what now? What happens from now on?
Well, I think it goes for the same with dealing with the problem child. Patience, principled, and be firm. In an adult language, we've been pretty successful in keeping that front. And another thing is to keep the international front. One big worry that we might have is that if we keep talking to North Korea and becoming in a position to succumb to all kinds of demands they have, in effect, it might become a situation where we are financing them to become very difficult in the denuclearization front.
And we want to avoid giving that.
Right. So if that becomes a reality, then our international front will have a crack, because China and US finally agreed on a principle of denuclearization, and yet if South Korea is financing them to be more recalcitrant and hold out, that would be a very difficult situation. So I would say that they keep the same stance, be firm and principled, and I think the problem child might turn around.
So far so good, but we'll have to see what happens with the problem child, as you put it, yes.
Right.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Song, for joining me and sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you.
And we have more coming up on North Korea-related issues. Back to you, Min-jung and Young.
Thank you, Hyung-kyung. Everything, it seems like, is now in the third conditional. Could've, would've, and should've. Right. If the two Koreas had met today, they would have discussed resuming tours to Mount Kumgang, a beautiful scenic mountain in North Korea.
And the Mount Kumgang resort and the subject of reopening it was on the agenda. And we have Connie Lee, who has more on that for us. I understand you had a chance to visit some of the towns en route to the Mount Kumgang resort. I'm pretty sure the mood of that area, it changed drastically at about 8 p.m. when news broke of the inter-Korean talks breaking down. But how was the atmosphere when you went?
Right, I was there just yesterday, and now the atmosphere there was very quiet and a bit eerie, I have to say, but the mood of the people was very hopeful, to say the least. Now, as soon as North Korea expressed interest in holding talks with South Korea on restarting tours to Mount Kumgang, residents and business owners near that area got really excited, because ever since the tour stopped, so did a lot of the life in the surrounding towns. Now, the towns in the northern part of South Korea were once very busy and dynamic, back when hundreds of thousands of tourists used to pass through to get to what is one of the greatest mountains in Asia. Here's more.
Mount Kumgang, otherwise known as Diamond Mountain, sits on the Korean peninsula, arguably as one of the most famous mountains in the region for its scenic vistas. Standing more than 1,600 meters tall and stretching 40 kilometers wide, the mountain is known for its beauty and stunning scenery. As the lyrics to the poem and song Longing for Mount Kumgang say, one can only feel humbled after viewing this natural wonder made up of at least 12,000 peaks of granite that seem to sparkle. Located in Gangwon Province, northeast of the peninsula in North Korea, it's about 154 kilometers from Seoul, making it once the most popular tourist attractions for locals, drawing in about 300,000 visitors each year. Tours to Mount Kumgang started in 1998 as a joint project between the two Koreas. North Korea ran the resorts and restaurants in the Mount Kumgang area, pulling in hard currency from South Korean tourists. The tours first came by cruise ship and then by car and bus. However, it all came to a halt in 2008 after a female South Korean tourist was shot and killed by a North Korean soldier near a resort in the Mount Kumgang area. North Korea accused the woman of crossing into a military area. So the South Korean government ordered the tours to stop immediately, ending a major inter-Korean project and making a dent into the Northeast tourism industry. But North Korea wasn't the only one financially hurt by this. So were the towns by the border in South Korea that haven't seemed to recover since then. Gosong County, also known as a gateway to Mount Kumgang, is one of them.
This is a town that tourists from South Korea have to pass to get to Mount Kumgang. But now, 5 years after the South Korean government halted the tours, the town now looks like this, almost like a ghost town, with many empty shops and businesses like this one shut down and abandoned.
Gosong County officials estimate a loss of about 174 billion won, or about $154 million in the 5-year period since tourism to Mount Kumgang has stopped. More than 400 local businesses shut down since then.
For the past few years, business owners here have been petitioning for support or some kind of help from the government, just as the president is now helping the businesses involved in the Kaesong Industrial Complex. Life has been tough as many businesses have gone bankrupt.
But recent news of the prospect of inter-Korean talks to resume tours to Mount Kumgang has given new hope to this town. Park Wan-jun, who sells sea urchins, dry squid, and seaweed on the roads leading to the mountain, says he feels more hopeful now than ever before.
When I first heard about the possibility of the tours restarting again, I was so relieved that I felt like I could fly. It's been tough ever since the tour stopped, and I've gone into debt. If the tours don't resume soon, my business could go bankrupt next year.
County officials are also anticipating that their towns will liven up again.
If it seems more likely that our tours will begin again, we are planning to remodel some of the areas and replace old signs with new ones to bring this town back to life.
For now, the closest South Koreans can get to Mount Kumgang is through a viewfinder at the Unification Observatory in Gosong County, northeast of the peninsula. The road leading to Mount Kumgang is clearly empty and barren today. But citizens who are trying to see the mountain through the binoculars hope to see it close up one day soon.
The view from here is stunning. Even though we are technically one nation, the mountains on the other side look different. Once we're allowed to go, I definitely want to visit Mount Kumgang myself.
And until the tours resume, setting foot on Mount Kumgang remains a longing for the citizens of South Korea.
And hopefully we don't have to wait too long before the tourists from South Korea can visit Mount Kumgang. And as seen in the footage, the halt of the tours on the South Korean side was a big blow to a lot of the residents there and to business owners, especially in Gosong County, which really did look like a ghost town during the day and night.
I'm sure.
It definitely did look like a ghost town. We saw some of the shops there that really needed some renovation. At the same time, it seemed like they've been closed for several years, some of them, in fact.
Right, a lot of them were just completely abandoned. You see the empty chairs and tables just left in place. Now, the area not only experienced financial losses, but also a population drop as many of the business owners actually moved out of the county to look for better opportunities.
So tours to Mount Kumgang from the South Korean side have been halted, but they are operating their tours on their own in North Korea, correct?
Right, so ever since 2010, North Korea did permit companies to run tours only on the North Korean side. And they say the tours are mostly geared toward Chinese guests.
Okay.
Tours.
So you wouldn't be able to go directly from there, from South Korea. You would have to take a different route into the Kumgang Resort.
Right.
And just to give us some background information on the Mount Kumgang, you did say it was one of the most beautiful mountains in Asia, but it is being called by 4 different names, right?
For each season.
Yeah,
in
for each
fact.
season.
Right, because Mount Kumgang, it looks different depending on the season that you're in. So it's most commonly called as Kumgangsan in Korean.
Right.
But in the summer, it's actually called Bongnasan, which means a place where the spirit dwells. And now in the autumn, it's Pungaksan, or the hill of colorful leaves. That makes sense. And in the winter, it's called Gaegorsan, referring to the ditches and gutters in the mountain.
So it would be Pongnasan now because it's summer, right? All right, interesting. A lot of people, and not just the business operators, but tourists want to visit this mountain. So we do hope that we see some kind of breakthrough in this situation. All right, thank you, Connie, for that.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to get a check on the weather updates. It's been raining and it's been a wet one this morning. I'm sure if you are commuting to work, you should take off a little bit earlier because of the traffic. Let's get a check on that.
Right, Dami joins us with an umbrella.
With an umbrella, I hope.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm reporting live from Gwanghwamun, right next to the Cheonggyecheon or Cheonggye Stream. It is currently raining here in Seoul and in most parts of the nation. Currently here in Gwanghwamun, we are seeing mostly cloudy skies and there are signs of fog, but the cloudy skies are due to a low pressure trough over in the north. Now, current temperatures are about 21 degrees Celsius, but it does feel much cooler. It is actually nice and refreshing. Must be because the sun is hiding behind the clouds. I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy this moment as much as possible. Now, as for the rain, down in the south, it looks like it will come to a lull pretty quickly. However, in the western regions, it looks like the rain will come to a cease later in the afternoon. Over in Gangwon, North Chungcheong, and North Gyeongsang Province, it looks like the rain will continue until tomorrow morning, so do keep yourselves updated with the forecast. Now, I must say that the roads are quite slippery, so please be cautious, but in these conditions, taking public transportation is always the way to go. As for temperatures, looks like our highs will be mostly mild, as highs will only peak up to about the mid-20s. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the temperatures across Korea. Here in the nation's capital, there won't be much of a difference with our highs and lows at 20 and 23. Conditions look similar in Daejeon, however, Daegu looks the hottest at 28 degrees. Gangneung looks the coolest with highs at 21. Busan and Gwangju will both hit the mid-20s and Jeju Island at 23. Now, the rain is expected to come to a lull later in the day here in Seoul. Starting tomorrow, conditions will clear up and temperatures will rise. Later, the day after tomorrow, numbers will easily hit the 30s again starting Friday, so do be prepared for that. That's all I have for the weather. I'll see everyone tomorrow.
Day and night, the vibrant streets of the Hongik University District are full of fun and culture. We take you to the heart of the indie music scene in Seoul and check out the latest beats and vibes. That looks exciting. But before we go to Hongik University, we're going to go to the University of Paris. parenting. Minjung, I'm looking forward to this.
All right, I'm the professor now then. All right, students, listen up.
Ready to
Today we're
take
going
notes,
to
yes.
talk about baby food. And you know, it's the first food that first solid food mothers give to their babies. So mothers are bending over backwards to make sure it's only the best. But for some mothers who work, they just simply don't have the time to put in all that effort. So there's a unique service that caters to these mothers. So we'll find out a little more in this video.
Baby food reflects the food culture of a country. That's why Korean baby food includes a lot of unique aspects. Korean mothers are picky when it comes to choosing ingredients. They select different ingredients for each meal, keeping two words in mind: fresh and organic.
I spend more money on baby food since I pay more attention to it than regular food.
I think that the willingness to provide expensive food for their child, even if that means that they have to eat lower quality food, is stronger in Korea than elsewhere. One distinguishing feature about Korean baby food is that it uses not only seasonal ingredients, but also fresh ingredients suitable to the age of each baby.
Just about every Korean baby food includes rice. Other ingredients are vegetables that are in season, as well as premium meats. They come in all forms, from thin rice porridge to regular cooked rice. As there are many different recipes, there are famous blogs that feature unique and special cooking techniques born from parents sharing information. These power bloggers have published their recipes in books, which sometimes are an indispensable tool for other new moms and dads. With this growing interest in baby food, the market for pre-made baby food is also seeing changes. One unique service is baby food delivery. The sight of a wide variety of baby food being delivered door to door is quite unique to Korea. As baby food delivery becomes more popular, the production of food is becoming more systematic and larger in scale. The entire cooking process, from preparing the ingredients to cooking and packaging, is meticulously and strictly done, just like a mother would do for her baby, and every dish is brought fresh to each home. Each packaged meal features all the information needed, such as where the ingredients come from, as well as expiration dates. A baby's weekly diet varies. These trustworthy and meticulous delivery companies are a blessing in disguise for working moms. Yu-mi is the mother of a 6-year-old son and twin daughters. Yi began ordering pre-made food for her son 5 years ago and is doing so for her twins as well.
At first, I made the food myself, but since they're twins and I have to work, even making 2 meals for them takes a whole day. I felt I could trust the company since I can see the cooking process and the children enjoy their meals.
Some parents, however, still stick to homemade baby meals. Chef Kim Young-suk is even pickier when it comes to baby food than his wife is.
I can't help but be very meticulous with the ingredients since my child is the one eating them.
His son is now on semi-solid baby food. Kim keeps track of both the nutritional value of the food as well as which dishes his son enjoyed the most.
Making baby food isn't easy. My husband takes the ingredients and the nutrients all into consideration while shopping. We're also keeping track of what our child enjoyed so we can make the same food again.
Kim spends more than an hour preparing for each meal, and his son happily eats what his dad made.
I think that a parent should be the one making it. That's what makes it truly special.
Kim says he feels the happiest when he sees his son enjoying the meals that he made.
The biggest one is the nutrition value, which ensures that a baby can grow healthily. Secondly, which is just as important, is that the food helps the baby to get used to its home country's culture and eating habits.
About devotion and dedication for making baby foods.
Definitely.
Exactly, not easy. Now, so these are some of the samples of the delivered baby food that we just saw in the video. They come in many different stages, 4 stages, in fact, in the baby's stage of development. And I'll show you. It even says the origin of the ingredients. And this is the 시금치 호박죽, which is, of course, spinach and pumpkin porridge. And it's for babies who are 10 months to a year old.
Okay.
So look.
So it comes in different stages because obviously the kids, they can handle certain foods in their stomach and digest it well enough, and that's
right.
all you have to do is heat that up.
Exactly.
And
put
it's
it in
fresh.
boiling water, and it's warm, and so you want to try? It's actually bland, so it's not. They don't put any condiments. How is it? See, it's good for the baby, so it's probably not good for
bland.
your taste, right? It's bland.
No, but it's surprisingly not bad. Just a little salt, and we're supposed to cut down on sugar, right?
Right.
I mean, it's salt. Right?
Right, and a lot of
bad.
these companies focus on hygiene, of course, and also, just to be transparent. And so they have a group of mothers who come and monitor their factories once a month. So, and their business grew so much, 50% growth year on year since 2010, this one specific company.
Yeah, mothers definitely do want to know and be secure that the food that their children are eating is going to be safe for them with the top quality ingredients. And you can also see that all this is organic stuff here.
And we have some plates.
Yeah, exactly. It's made of ceramics, actually. Very surprisingly, I thought it was going to be made in plastic, but I guess it's safer this way, maybe.
Because you don't want to put plastic in your microwave.
Right. That's exactly why. And it's very cute, it has Bororo character on it.
It's made by Hanguk Chinaware, this specific Chinaware, right?
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Right?
And kids eat more and better when it's, just put in a pretty plate like that. Bororo is definitely
get their attention, definitely, right?
Definitely, and whet their appetite too.
And the market, is definitely seems like it's growing because you have ceramic ware, for children.
Exactly, and the licensing, of course, Bororo, we know of him as the nation's or their kids' president, and they listen to him, if not anyone else, right?
Known as 보통령.
보통령, that's right. So all these things over here, I think, are perfect for mothers, and of course, caring about what your child is eating is the
but
most
our
important thing.
chef is standing by. He's probably laughing at this stuff, right? he probably whiffs it out in 2 seconds, this stuff.
No, I'm not. I'm actually amazed how much baby food is out there. As I'm a parent myself, I cook for my son, and the worst thing is you spend an hour in the kitchen, you're preparing, you're making the meal, and then the first spoon goes into your son's mouth or into your child's mouth, and he rejects it. So that's really
that hurts you.
That's the problem that was in my household. So basically, I was in charge of the leftovers, and what I had to do was eat the leftovers.
And this happened. Right. Good morning, Andreas.
Okay, what do you have for us?
Good morning. Today we're talking about compen shells. These are first time I've seen them in Korea when I came here 2 years ago. Amazing shell. First I thought they're black mussels, but it's actually a clam family shell. And right now is a good season to have them. Another amazing fact is that they're actually not caught by the net. They're actually picked up from the ocean's floor. So
you're right. Over 70% of these, the comb pen shells, they happen to be from the West Sea, a certain area, the Ocha Bay. And just as Andrea said, they don't use nets. They don't use these big machineries where they grab it in masses, but they pick it by hand. So did you pick yours by hand?
Yes, not personally me, no. I did not. But what I want to show you quickly now how to open one. It's actually, there's going to be some gaps there a little bit. So the easiest way, the shell, the mussel is attached to this and to this side. You go in with the knife and you try to be as close as possible to the shell. And you cut one side loose, and then it should be easy to actually open. Not yet. So. And that's it. So it might not look that appetizing in the beginning, but the center of that is the meat, what is very, very delicious, quite firm. You can do a lot of things with it. You can enjoy it raw as a sashimi. But today we're making a different version. We're actually going to pan fry it a little bit and then bake it in the oven. So I've prepared 2 of them a bit earlier to make my life more easy. Now you can dice them in different sizes. I like to put them into thin slices. So you actually see later when you eat them what it is. So you slice them, even slices.
And I love how you have the hair slicing gloves right on the left hand there to get a better grip on it also. Pei is Korean raw fish.
So you slice these, then I prepared some vegetables for it. So today I'm going to use some capsicum, some zucchini, some onions, a few nice king oyster mushrooms, and a bit of chili, of course. Gotta add some chili. So while the pan is heating, I use a little bit of olive oil again. You can use vegetable oil. So, and I start with my vegetables.
Onions?
Don't need the whole. Yeah, some onions, zucchini, peppers. If you don't like onions, you can substitute them to spring onions.
Okay.
So the vegetables are pretty much up to you. You can vary these to taste.
But onions have a sweeter taste. I think I'd go with onions.
I think the important thing with onions for me, you actually have to cook them slowly. They become lightly sweet and they don't have this pungent flavor. So for me, it's always important to either cook them very slowly so they get a nice taste, or to slice them as thin as possible. They're also then not so pungent. So. Good, my komcha is ready. The vegetables are going.
I am just so tempted to
rush over,
step over there and
And the good thing about this one as well, you have actually a perfect serving utensil later. I did these earlier. You wash them out a little bit. You get them ready, and what we're going to do, we're going to put the filling inside. We bake that in the oven for 3 or 4 minutes.
Nature's own disposable plate.
Right.
And you don't really need plates, no.
it's sizzling.
So the vegetable is sizzling.
Oh, wow.
Get them a little bit going. Put a pinch of salt and pepper in there. Oh, and as you said, put a little mushroom pit.
Any type of mushroom would do?
Pardon me?
Any type of mushroom?
Well, I use local mushroom. There's I wouldn't put a shiitake in there because it's too strong, but this one, the king oyster mushroom, perfect. And a champignon you can put in there.
Okay.
Oh, I can
Again,
smell
up
it
to your
right
taste.
All right, our Korea Today studio
So
is...
now they become nice and sweetened off. We'll add a few spring onions in there. And of course, you cannot do a meal without the chilies. So we have some red and green chili diced in there. The vegetable is cooked 2/3. I'm going to add the compan shells.
All right, so while you're cooking that and grilling that up for us, we are going to go ahead and...
go to Hongdae.
Yeah, exactly. So Peter Bint, he's been sitting here right next to us. We'll get back to you, Andreas, in just a little bit.
Yes.
So he's maybe, should I say something or should I not?
No,
what
go
should
ahead,
I do?
Peter. What do you think about that food?
It smells so good.
Right?
All right, good morning.
Good morning. So today, like you said, we're going to go to a neighbourhood which is packed full of energy and fun, and it's exciting. I can certainly vouch for that. It's the Hongik University area, also known as Hongdae to many people, and it's very popular with foreigners as well. And today, specifically, we're going to talk about the indie music scene, which it's very famous for. So this is the Hongik University, located in Seogyeodong, Mapogu in Seoul. And this is the Hongik University area, popularly known as Hongdae. During the weekend, some 200,000 visitors go to this neighbourhood because there's so much to see and enjoy. Street performances are a symbol of Hongdae's youth and diversity. Any street corner can become an open stage for all.
It is full of innovation and freedom.
It's like a playground.
This area wasn't originally known for its performances. From the 1950s, it was mainly dominated by art studios and exhibitions, but things changed in the 90s. Now you can easily come across street performances like this. The trend is closely related to the emergence of indie bands in the area. With a vast variety of genres and their freedom in style, these bands soon set the scene for indie music to thrive in Hongdae. In the early 90s, when indie music was popular, there were some 80 live clubs around Korea where fans could watch their bands play, and of them, 50 were in the Hongdae area. So we visited the first live club that opened in the area called Drone. And the club opened its doors in 1994, a time when live music was spreading in the Hongdae and neighbouring Sinchon area. It became a place for musicians and fans to come together, as well as becoming a stepping stone for young
club
musicians.
DGBD was there when the band Cranknut made its debut. The bands that were active at the time are considered to be part of the first generation. Some of the most well-known first-generation bands include Huckleberry Finn, Cranknuts, and No Brain.
I think I was there some 10 years ago, just once or twice.
You were at the beginning, you're original.
And this is a record shop that has been in the area for a long time. It's a much treasured spot for indie bands and music lovers for 20 years. But there were moments of hardship. The store lost its place to a large restaurant and faced near closure, but was saved by a customer who offered a small space.
I bought many CDs there when we used to buy CDs.
Right, back in the old days.
What's a CD?
She's the youngest of all.
And street performance is open to all and don't have fixed admission fees. Spectators can get as close as 4 to 5 meters away, and it's on the streets that everyone becomes one. And of the live clubs in Seoul, there's 250, 50 are in Hongdae, and each weekend a wide variety of indie bands hold performances. The bands really do practice day and night for their gigs, and the stage may not be flashy, but it is special for each of these bands. The jazz band Haze Blue takes advantage of the neighborhood's vibrant atmosphere.
I'm actually better off compared to other musicians. I think I came this far simply because I like music.
So how about dropping by Hongdae, one of Seoul's most artsy and vibrant areas, to enjoy a wide range of music and also have some fun as well.
The Hongdae University area is definitely full of life, but the indie bands over there in the area, they're working part-time jobs so they can support what they love doing, which is playing in a band. And a lot of them don't have that much money, and they don't have any record deals. Do they get any kind of a support?
Yeah, well, there are separate indie music labels for these guys that support the bands. And of the 35 that there are, 17, so nearly half, are located in Hongdae. And the people who run these, they're either former band members who are helping current musicians, or they're working on both fronts in a band and as a label manager.
You know, I have a couple of indie bands that I like, but I always seem to miss their concerts by a couple of days. Is there a way to actually track when they're having their concerts?
Yeah, well, maybe this is just for you, Hyunjung. Next week, a ticket box is opening up, and you can buy the tickets to all the performances and get info on what's going on in Hongdae. And it's also going to double up as a tourist information centre for foreigners. So you can visit the website for more information. It's www.livemusic.or.kr.
So my question is, these clubs, will I feel out of place if I go?
No, Friday night.
Just let your head out.
It's okay?
Let's re-explore Hongdae clubs after.
That's what they say, Minjung.
I won't feel out of place. I'll feel like a grandma there, probably.
No.
I'll
We're gonna
accompany
enjoy
you.
that. All right, Peter, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
very
that
much.
report.
And a good Wednesday morning to you all. Now we start things off with some good news from the football field as South Korea faced off against Uzbekistan on Tuesday night at the Seoul World Cup Stadium. That was a must-win match for the Taeguk Warriors, and what do you know, a win is what they got. Now with Korea's passing improving since their match against Lebanon, they connected left and right throughout the night, and a brilliant performances from Lee Chung-yo and the 23-year-old from Pohang Steelers, Lee Myung-ju. But despite all that, a lone goal came in the 43rd minute of the match. A brilliant header by Uzbekistan's defender, but wrong net. An own goal was all that was needed as Korea takes this match 1-0 as they get closer to qualifying for the World Cup. Now, of course, with the 1-0 victory by South Korea, they could have qualified for the World Cup if Lebanon beat Iran. Only Iran actually absolutely crushed the Lebanese defenders as they took the match 4-0 your final. Now, Korea's qualification will depend on the final match between Korea and Iran, set to take place on June 18th here in Korea, and all Korea needs is a draw. And of course, staying with football, but over in the MLS, Lee Young-pyo, who's actually a former national team member himself, is actually doing pretty well over in the MLS with the Vancouver Whitecaps. And his success is paying off as he was recently included in the 2013 MLS All-Star ballot. With the MLS All-Star team facing off against AS Roma of Serie A in Italy at the end of July, fans will have a chance to vote for the MLS All-Stars. The voting process begins on the 14th, and it looks like Lee Young-pyo is included in the ballot for the fans to vote. The South Korean defender, who was once voted as the team MVP, will have a chance to play in the All-Star game for the first time. And now moving on to some Tuesday night KBO action as the Lotte Giants and the Nexen Heroes fell victim to the rainy weather yesterday, but the red-hot LG Twins faced off against the struggling Hana Eagles, so let's take a look at the highlights. Now going into the game here, of course, right from the start, it's Moon Sun-jae's RBI single to right. This one is going to score the first run of the game. Now here's Chung Hee-yoon. He's going to make this 2-0 with an sac fly as LG continue to score. Now a 3-run fourth inning. This one a pass ball you'll see here. And where is this going? The catcher nowhere to be seen. Now this one, we see the LG Twins continue to score here. Lee Byung-gyu with the bases loaded, clears the bases. LG Twins absolutely crushed the Hana Eagles. 11-3 is your final score. And now moving on to the Kia Tigers taking on the NC Dinos. Kia sheds first blood with Kim Ju-chan's RBI triple to center field. Now Najuan, the butterfly man, he's been red hot. Sac fly to center. This one is going to make it 2-0 Kia. But it's rally time for the NC Dinos. They've been red hot as well. Kwon Hee-dong in the second inning, a solo shot to left field, cuts the deficit to 2-1. Lee Ho-jun's gonna end up tying this ball game for the NC Dinos with an RBI double, but Kia takes the lead back in the bottom of the inning thanks to Kim Ju-young's RBI single. Now the Kia Tigers, the way they've been playing right now, they're gonna run away with this. An Chi-young's 2-run double. This one is going to help the Kia Tigers take this game 7-2, your final score. And now last but not least, the two struggling teams facing off, SK Wyverns versus the Tucson Bears. Banks across the board until the third inning with Kim Hyun-soo's RBI single gives the Tucson Bears the 1-0 lead. Fourth inning, SK comes back with a couple of RBI ground out, one from Park Jung-kwon and this one from Kim Sang-hyun. Now Park Jin-man is finally going to make a single here with a 4-run lead for the SK Wyverns. Now the SK Wyverns holding on to a slim 4-3 lead. Eighth inning, Kim Sang-hyun, former Kia man, deep to left field. This one is going to start a 3-run eighth inning as SK Wyverns hold on to win this one 7-5 is your final score. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. See you guys again next time for your sports needs.
Beautiful scenery with the music.
Looks like you have to meditate right under the waterfall.
And have breakfast while you're at it. And speaking of which, we'll go back to Chef Andreas Krampel and to see how far he's come along with the comb pen shells. Chef?
So, back again in the kitchen. We actually finished the comb pen shells earlier off. I put a little bit of the Korean chili paste inside, mixed it all through. I sprinkled a little bit of cheese and a little bit of a special breadcrumbs. What I put a little bit chili, a little bit sesame, a little bit herbs inside. So all these 3 ingredients went on top of the shell, and then we baked them just about 4 minutes ago, and that's how they look right now. You can smell them, they're really delicious, so beautiful. Very simple. And this is something, again, you can prepare earlier. You have them ready in your fridge, your guests will arrive, you put them in your oven, and you're done. So very simple presentation. I use some sea salt, so otherwise they would slide off the plate easily. Put them on the sea salt and serve them right away at the table. Maybe a little bit chili for decoration.
What are you putting over there? Sesame seeds?
There you go.
Oh, the presentation is just fantastic.
Woohoo!
Wow, look at that.
Wow, this is beautiful. And what is this underneath? Salt.
Some sea salt and a little bit greenery, what is in season.
Is this hot? Can I touch it? Okay,
No.
all right.
You can, I can, but you probably
Interesting
won't.
mixture of cheese and gochujang.
Yes, it is, and it actually tastes really, really nice. In the beginning, I was skeptical too, and I asked my Korean colleagues, why would we use Italian cheese in a Korean dish? And they said, no, you got to try it. It's really good.
Okay.
And so
East meets West,
Yes.
right?
All right, and we're going to be digging into that in just a little bit. But thank you, Andreas, for joining us and introducing this fabulous dish.
Thank you
Where's our spoon? All right, well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Korea Today.
Okay, have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Let's dig in. I had too much baby
Time
food.
to dig in. Right. Where's our spoon?
There you go. We have
Oh,